The Fraud That is AA Fundamentalism by Bob K. It may be that Alcoholics Anonymous has never been more polarized than it is in the mid-teens of the new millennium. A consolation is that there was another time of great divisiveness. Chapter: Good God, there's a lot of God. As the book was being written and discussed in late 1938, there was strong but warm-hearted arguing until they reached Chapter 5, where Bill wanted to explain exactly how the steps, worked. He was in no way prepared for the violent reaction when he read his 12 steps to the group a few nights later. The liberals were appalled and said so. As a body, they seemed suddenly to backtrack and take up a solid position beside the radicals. There was far too much God talk in the steps. See Bill W. by Robert Thompson, page 253. Chapter: The Myth of Unanimity. In the end, and as we understood him, was added here and there, and on our knees extracted. The general "you should, you must" tone morphed to "we did," notwithstanding that they hadn't. The final compromised product, no doubt disappointing to virtually all, is sold as unanimously agreed. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. See Big Book, Roman numeral, page 13. Thus, the book crows that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree. See Big Book, page 17. In order to believe these claims, it is then necessary to take up the rather preposterous position that identical actions were taken by Bob Smith and Jim Burwell. The paths of the enthusiastic returnee to the Congregational Church Christianity and the irredeemable atheist were one and the same. What would it take to put you into that Brooklyn Bridge today? Minister's son, Fitz Mayo, lobbied forcefully for a book laced with Jesus Christ, biblical quotations brightening every page. Hank Parkhurst insisted on stressing the psychology of the process in a text that was godless. Yet, we are to accept that one and all were delighted with the final product. 1 hour spent in a committee room would dispel these fictions. At the end of every viciously fought political leadership convention, there is a ceremonial final vote. The winner is unanimously endorsed. The group conscience is respected as they march forward to battle the common enemy, feigned esprit de corps being better than none at all. In reality, the compromise was disappointing for most. For those whose relief from a horrendous dissipation came by way of a surrender to Jesus Christ, what the hell is this "as we understood him" but wishy-washy nonsense? Thus, the Bible-loving folk of Akron continued much as they had been before, detached from the Oxford group forebears only in name. At the other extremity, the non-God higher power of non-believers must nonetheless be called God, capital G, as we understood him, notwithstanding that one's understanding be neither of God nor of him. Forevermore, we have a book describing one who has all power and advocating a total denigration of human power of any sort. The heathen minority did the best that they could, and a peace fell upon the land. Sorta. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the 6th day. See Genesis 1:31. Such was the genesis of the book. Chapter, spiritual, yum yum, not religious, yuck, boo. One frequently hears, and it's certainly not one of the earliest assurances to newcomers, that Alcoholics Anonymous is spiritual, not religious. Of course, within minutes, someone is very likely to chime in with, "Our book was divinely inspired, written not by mere human beings, but by the Creator, His own damn self." The claim of every religion, ever. Should it be true that God, and not Bill Wilson, a mere agent, authored the steps and the rest of it, perhaps we should be nervous. We edited God. That seems like a bad idea. And what about JC? Left out entirely. Might he not go all temple crazy on our money changer asses? But relax. AA has no requirement to go to church. Phew. Your Sunday morning golf foursome or delightful brunch is undisturbed. Chapter, Worship of the Holy Book. We are now in an era where segments of the sober folk gather, rather cultishly, around some charismatic or not so charismatic leader. Within these groups, great pride is taken in the strictest possible adherence to the book's instructions. Those who are sober, without a diligent obedience, in every detail, to the big book prescription, are dismissed. They are not real alcoholics, mere hard drinkers demonstrating their capacity to quit drinking quite easily through mere human resources. These are the atheists, agnostics, and various other malingerers. The enthusiastic follow the book to the letter, except, of course, for the parts they don't like. Suggest, in its various verb, noun, and adjectival forms, is particularly upsetting and triggers ridiculous comments about parachutes and entirely new, fanciful definitions. If you look up suggestion in a 1939 dictionary, it means a subtle command. No, actually it doesn't. Chapter, Yes, dear, I have a few subtle commands about your cooking. Page 59 is translated to, Here are the steps we took, which are subtly commanded as a program of recovery. Page 164 converts nicely to our book is meant to be subtly commanding only. Sheesh, why only? But nice and firm, with no room for mucking about? Plus, pushing people around is so much fun. Elsewhere, the writer seems to have anticipated the 21st century meaning. There are many helpful books also. Subtle commands about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Doesn't quite cut it. Page 87. We believe, and so subtly commanded a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. See page Roman numeral 28. It all gets a bit silly under even a minimum of investigation. Just one more. This is so much fun. There is every evidence that women regain their health as readily as men if they try our subtle commands. Do not try that one at home, guys. But preacher's going to preach about a book that tells us not to preach. Chapter, Other Cool Translations. We realize we know only a little equals we know everything. There are no lectures to be endured equals sit down and shut up. The lecture starts now. Chip of a book equals entire order of fish and chips of a book. Why don't you choose your own conception of God? Equals here. Let us help you out with that. Our Father who, when, therefore, we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God equals, nah, not really. God is God, right? Creator, one who has all power. Big G, little o, little d. That guy. Either God is everything or else he is nothing equals, Entirely your choice. Pick A or pick A. Spiritual Experience Appendix? Not listening, not in the 164. Chapter. We even hate our own stuff. AA's second main text, the 12 and 12, is vilified. Living sober is the scourge of Satan. All manner of evil stems from the watering down of the original sacred directions of the sanctified first 100. The forces of the recovered carry a crystal clear message that God is not optional. God, not higher power, is mentioned 182 times, or 247 times, or 324 times in the book, we are told. Not sure why the cited number is always different, but never mind, it's a lot. The fundies should have a meeting and synchronize their watches or something. War has been declared against the heathen horde, unscrupulously at work to remove God from the AA program. The evangelists are very vocal, as evangelists tend to be, and for them, AA must be forever frozen in time at 1939. Amid the fragmented modern AA world of diluted methods and treatment center contamination, they wax nostalgic in a contemplation of the good old days, the early 40s, when the sacred book was followed to the letter by one and all. But was it so? Chapter. The Golden Age Mythology. So many years later, the fundamentalists tell us of the magnificent age of AA, when one and all scrupulously followed to the very letter the sanctified script of our God-given text. In little subsets of the self-congratulatory, self-esteem skyrockets amidst shared tales of diligent practice of the codified instructions. There is a missed irony, of course, in the various explanations of an uninterpreted page-by-page adherence to the directions, each group differing in small ways, one from the other. Perhaps this is an inadvertent tribute to the Christianity from which we are spawned. Akron AA is mythologized, but the Ohio people created a 15-cent pamphlet at a time when the cherished book was $3.50. A simple inflation calculator tells us that Bill and his anointed crew were ready and willing to save any and all who could pony up, in today's money, $60. Chapter. Homo Unius Libri. Centuries ago, Thomas Aquinas penned this cautionary note: beware the man of a single book. Flying forward some centuries to a world of then unimaginable technology, we can check Yahoo Answers best for the implications of the phrase. A man of one book knows only one way. He is unwilling to consider alternatives or flexibility, and his stubbornness will become irritating in the short term and dangerous in the long. The mantra of the Big Book Thumper is that the writing of the book unified AA, and that a recipe was recorded and followed with exactitude by one and all. What AA history tells us occurred is something substantially different, but perhaps it's best not to let the facts get in the way of a good story. About the author, Bob K. Bob K. lives in the metropolitan Toronto area and has been a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous for 24 years, and an out-of-the-closet atheist for that entire time. He's been a regular contributor to the AA Agnostica website for almost 5 years, and in January 2015 published Key Players in AA History. In 2013, he co-founded the Whitby Freethinkers Meeting. The original print version of this article, The Fraud That Is AA Fundamentalism by Bob K., may be found on the website aabeyondbelief.com in the AA History section dated January 3rd, 2016. This audio presentation was recorded on January 26th, 2017. You may also find many more articles, stories, and podcasts on our YouTube site or SoundCloud. Just search for AA